Hello and welcome back to the King James Bible Sunday School channel on YouTube and Rumble, and to our day-by-day devotional from the Call to Glory publication this year. Uh, Today is July the 22nd, 2026. July 22nd, 2026. And the devotion for today comes from 2 Corinthians chapter 1, verses 3 through 7. From 2 Corinthians chapter 1, verses 3 through 7. So read that carefully and prepare for the devotional. Before we go into the devotional, of course, we want to go through our daily Bible reading schedules. And first is our yearly schedule from the Call to Glory publication. Today's reading is going to be Psalm 36 and 37, and then Acts chapter 23, verses 1 through 11. Psalms 36 and chapter 37, or Psalm 37, and Acts chapter 23, verses 1 through 11. Tomorrow will be Psalms 38, 39, and 40. Psalms 38, 39, and 40, and Acts chapter 23, verses 12 through 35. Acts chapter 23, verses 12 through 35. Then for our 5-ribbon marker system from David Daniels, today's reading you want to finish up 1 Samuel chapters 4 and 5 and half of 6. Finish up about 6/7 of Psalm 104. Finish Ezekiel chapter 10 and half of 11. Finish up Luke chapter 20 and finish up 1 Timothy chapter 4 and a quarter of chapter 5. Then tomorrow we'll finish up 1 Samuel chapter 6, then chapter 7, and finish up Psalm 104, a quarter of Psalm 105, finish up Ezekiel 11, about a quarter of Luke 21, and about 3/5 of 1 Timothy chapter 5. Then our 6-month schedule through the ribbons but modified. Today's reading is Genesis chapters 26, verse 26 through 35, chapter 27, verse 1 through 29, Joshua chapter 2, Joshua chapter 21, verse 9 through 45, Joshua 21, verse 9 through 45, Isaiah chapter 30, verse 18 through 33, and chapter 31, 1 Chronicles chapter 26, verses 20 through 32, and chapter 27, Matthew chapter 26, verse 26 through 75. And again, Genesis 26, verse 26 through 35, Genesis 27, verses 1 through 29, Joshua chapter 21, verse 9 through 45, Isaiah chapter 30, verse 18 through 33, Isaiah chapter 31, 1 Chronicles chapter 26, verse 20 through 32, 1 Chronicles chapter 27, Matthew chapter 26, verse 26 through 75. Tomorrow will be Genesis chapter 27, verse 30 through 46, and chapter 28, verse 1 through 9, Joshua chapter 22, verse 1 through 20, Isaiah chapter 32, and chapter 33, verses 1 through 12, 1 Chronicles chapter 28, Matthew chapter 27, verse 1 through 32. Again, Genesis 27, verses 30 through 46, chapter 28, verse 1 through 9, Joshua 22, verse 1 through 20, Isaiah chapter 32 and chapter 33, verses 1 through 12, 1 Chronicles chapter 28, Matthew chapter 27, verses 1 through 32. And then we have a 3-month schedule through the New Testament books that we didn't read last quarter. And today's reading is Luke 19 and chapter 20, also verses 1 through 19. Luke chapter 19 and then chapter 20, verses 1 through 19. Tomorrow will be Luke chapter 20, verse 20 through 47, and chapter 21. Luke chapter 20, verse 20 through 47, and chapter 21. Now back to our devotional. Of course, hope that you're going through the challenge of reading a psalm a day from the Treasury of David or some other, expository commentary series of some sort to go through the Psalms, hopefully before the end of the year. One psalm per day until we get to Psalm 119, and we'll have to go through that a little differently. Excuse me. But but I hope you're taking up that challenge. And I'm using the Treasure of David as a guide. Just again, reading it devotionally, not stopping and trying to figure out everything. And it has a list of works, at the end of that, and also has an index of authors, for the entirety of each section or each book that was originally published. So I'm not saying to go through those authors and try to figure out who you might want to read or find a copy of the book or anything like that. You don't even necessarily have to read that list of authors, although you might. It might be valuable to do it. I do it just because it's ingrained in me in a disciplinary fashion to read like everything. I go through, sadly, I go through and I read all the copyright information, all these little details, all these numbers and everything. Even when I read a novel, I grab up, and I read all this stuff before and after, and just, some of it is very tedious. Some of it's just announcements for other books and things, and I sit there and read it because I've just developed that discipline in my life, and I don't necessarily recommend it for anybody else, but I do catch some things by reading those things. So it comes in handy, if you will. Uh, I've just seen that it's worthy of my looking at and seeing. Whereas you might be able to see the information without reading everything, uh, if you're just glancing at it, Um, but anyway, never mind all that. I'm rambling on. Second Corinthians chapter 1, or first chapter of Second Corinthians, verses 3 through 7 is the devotion. We're going to read here, verse 4. Second Corinthians chapter 1, verse 4. Second Corinthians chapter 1, verse 4. Who comforteth us in all our tribulation, that we may be able to comfort them which are in any trouble, by the comfort wherewith we ourselves are comforted of God. Comforted of God. Uh, who comforteth us in all our tribulation, that we may be able to comfort them which are in any trouble, by the comfort wherewith we ourselves are comforted of God. This is the second portion of how we can rejoice in sufferings. The Lord has Trials for Others, titled Trials for Others. Pastor Timothy Whalen, Bible Baptist Church, Owosso, I think, Michigan. Owosso, Owsso, Owosso. Timothy Whalen, Whalen. Uh, Trials for Others. This is the second portion of how we can rejoice in sufferings. The Lord has a plan in bringing sufferings to pass in our lives. The main thought is that sufferings in our lives are not wasted. They produce benefits for ourselves. James chapter 1 verse 6. 1 verses 1 through 6. There is also help we can give to others if we respond with grace and humility. 2 Corinthians chapter 1 verse 3 through 7. The first thing we notice is that we experience his comfort, which is also one of his names, the God of all comfort, in verse 3. And then we can pass it on to others who are having a similar trial. There is a huge difference between sympathy, which says, I feel sorry for you, and empathy, which can say, I know exactly what you are experiencing because I have gone through that. Verse 4. And it is very encouraging to come alongside a fellow believer and walk with them through their valley. Explain that the Lord has gotten you through, and they can make it too. They will be encouraged to keep going forward. Further, if we have severe trials, our consolation to others will be deep enough to encourage them. In verse 5, God clearly says our affliction is for others' comfort and could even result in salvation. Have you ever seen a Christian endure an injustice or trial, and you saw the humble response and you thought you wanted you wanted what they have? How bad could those trials be? Paul says they were pressed out of measure and even despaired of life. Those are terrible situations, but rest assured the grace of God will get you through, and you will have a deeper capacity to help others with that same grace. Your trial will not be wasted. All right, and that's the devotion for today. And tomorrow's is going to come from Titus chapter 3, verse 8. Titus chapter 3, verse 8. And of course, I want to again recommend to you the reading of the Word of God, trusting the Word of God, no matter what anybody says against it. The Bible is right. The King James Bible is right. To be more specific, if you will. And I stand for that almost unapologetically. There are videos on the channel that talk about inspiration and preservation and the Bible issue, and in a brief way, in a very simple way. So we'll get into more of that later on, but for now, um, that's all I'm going to say about it. Um, but want to encourage you though, in reading the scriptures, staying with the Word of God. The Bible's right, regardless of what other people say against it. They've been coming against it for many, many years. In fact, Bible times, people have been coming against the Bible and saying that's not true. And yet, it is proven to be true every single time. From the Bible and on to today. All right, we'll see you again tomorrow for another day by day devotional. Bye.